Okay, so I'm going to attempt to explain the task of the first section of the number one task of the CFI PTS on the fundamentals of instruction, which is human behavior and effective communication. So, to successfully be able to teach a student, the instructor has to know why they act the way they do and how they learn. And then the instructor can take this understanding and then be able to teach them. So that leads us right into the definition of human behavior. So, human behavior is an attempt to explain how and why humans function the way they do. This also would help the instructor understand the student, because if the student understands how the student learns, it'll make teaching a lot easier, because every student learns in a unique way. So, also, human behavior talks about what causes humans to act in predictable ways. An example of this would be fear. This comes right out of the Aviation Instructor's Handbook. And it brings up the fear of public speaking. In public speaking, some people either flee it, just don't want anything to do with it, or fight it. They fight their fear and complete it, because sometimes maybe your career requires you to talk to the public, so even though they're fearing that, they fight it and get over that fear. They overcome it. But then you have someone that just flees and doesn't want anything to do with it. So that is human behavior. And so I have to understand my style of teaching and adapt to the student's style of learning. So an example would be, let's say, some things are going to be boring for a student, and I have to motivate them to like it. So find out the reasons they want to be a pilot and use a scenario based on the reason. That will help motivate the student. And also, human behavior requires certain needs that have to be satisfied, which will bring us into the next topic, the hierarchy of Maslow's human needs, which is, he created this pyramid that I'll draw out here. So, what this pyramid does is gives us an order of importance of things that you must satisfy in order to be able to learn. And once one need is met, you go to the next one, and this need is no longer a motivation to you anymore. So you want to strive to satisfy the needs of the next highest level and keep going. But the most important one is right here at the bottom. You need this one first. Physiological. Now, here is pretty much your biological need. You need to have protection against the elements. You're not in your usual environment. You have to have food, waters, rest, sex. And once that goal is accomplished, because let's say you're hungry, well, you're not going to want to learn if you're thinking about going to eat. So you need to have all these things done before you can go to the next level, which is security. Now, security is protection against danger, threats. You're not in your environment, so you're going to have to overcome some fears, and that's the instructor's job to stress flight safety during your flight training, and this will help mitigate some of the insecurity the student may have. Next is belonging. belonging is when you associate, receive, and give friendship and love to others. Because let's say maybe you have someone that lives in a remote area. They're not used to being around people. And you have someone in the city that's, hey, oh, we're all used to this. So you have to feel at ease and make them feel at ease to perceive their goal here. Because someone from a remote area is not really used to being around people in the city, and it's not in their typical environment or out of their environment. So next is esteem. So esteem is, let's say, whether they believe they can fly an airplane, or whether they can't. They don't believe it, that they can fly. Means they're probably right. So esteem, you have to have confidence. Confidence that you can fly an airplane. If you have confidence you can fly an airplane, you will be able to fly an airplane. And this also respect to others. And this is one of the reasons esteem is a reason that people will decide to pursue an aviation career. Alright. Next is cognitive. And cognitive is the need to know and understand. So if the student knows what's going on and understands what's going on, it's going to help them learn and move up to the next level, which is aesthetic. Aesthetic is emotional needs. They have to have a need for how they're doing and how they're if they're succeeding or not in evaluation. Then once all these other needs are satisfied, and then the need of self-actualization can be attained. So self-actualization can be attained once all these other needs are satisfied. And pretty much when you reach this, it's what you're born to do. So you're born to be a pilot, so if you see let's just put this in another way. You have to see yourself as being a pilot in order to become a pilot. If you don't see yourself as being a pilot, you'll never become a pilot. So you have to see yourself as becoming a pilot. And it's my goal to help students satisfy their own needs, and this will help create a more healthy learning environment for them. So that's our hierarchy of human needs. Now, when you're teaching, students will make mistakes, and the FAA has these 8 defense mechanisms that students typically use when they are making a mistake. And it's pretty much it's human nature to use these defense mechanisms because people hate to fail, or they don't like to deny what they're doing wrong. So, an acronym, CPR, Dr. FDR. Okay, so the C is compensation. So basically, the student disguises a weak quality with a more positive, stronger quality. So let's give an example. You were not able to maintain altitude within 100 feet of when you're flying straight and level. You can't maintain 100 feet straight and level flight. And the student's reaction to that was, well, I climbed out at VY perfectly. I was climbing out VY perfectly. He's using something he did better as an excuse for the weak thing he did. So living rate compensation. Next, the P, projection. Projection is when you do something wrong and you blame somebody else. You come in for a landing and the pilot, you bounce it, maybe you bounce it, and you blame it on another pilot making their radio call in the traffic pattern. You blame it on that pilot. That's why I bounced my landing, because he was talking when I was trying to land. Well, it's actually your fault, the student's fault. But he doesn't believe that. Next would be rationalization. So rationalization is you don't accept. You believe that something you did wrong is really their fault. You don't believe it's your fault at all. So just like going back to the bounce landing, it's the pilot's fault. But in reality, it's your fault, but you don't believe that. Next is denial. So denial is you refuse to accept reality. Let's say you're getting ready to take off and you're not using any right rudder for torque effect. So the airplane gets veers to the left too much.